Hi, we'd like to share with you some of the sights, sounds, and experiences that we had during our recent visit to Guanajuato, Mexico.
Why Guanajuato? Well, ever since we've moved here, we've been hearing all of our friends and neighbors telling us what a fantastic city it is. So we had to go see for ourselves.
And we did. We jumped on a taxi from Ajijic, took a bus, then another taxi into the city of Guanajuato through a tunnel and to our hotel. And from there, you will see exactly what it is we experienced in Guanajuato, Mexico. Guanajuato is in central Mexico, about a 3 or 4 hour drive east and a bit north of our hometown of Ajijic near Guadalajara. Here we are at the top of one of the many hills in Guanajuato, and as you can see, the town is in a valley with streets and valleys that are so narrow that it makes driving difficult, while some are too narrow for cars and are long sets of stairs up the mountainsides. The colonial architecture includes some of the best Baroque examples in the New World. And you can see a lot of colonial era buildings, restaurants, bars, cafes, and terraces, and many, many small plazas inhabit the city. This close-in shot gives you a better feel for how steep the streets are and how beautiful the town is at the ground level. One of the best known plazas or open spaces in central Guadalajara is the Jardín de la Unión on the south side of the San Diego Church. The garden is filled with carefully pruned Indian laurels and, in addition to the church, is surrounded by small cafes, restaurants, and the Juarez Theater. The Juarez Theater is considered one of the most beautiful theaters in the country. It is in neoclassical style with a facade containing 9 sculptures depicting the muses of Greek mythology. How you doing?
I'm having fun. This is
Our
great.
first night here,
Oh, it's good.
the 19th of September, 2015.
Exactly.
Our hotel, the Posada Santa Fe, was right on this wonderful plaza. And we had the suite El Palomar, which was like a bridal suite. Absolutely an incredible suite on the 3rd floor overlooking a beautiful terraza with a location right here for our morning spiritual practice. You like the room okay?
I do, and I like this extra space over here. We've got enough room for a party.
Back to the streets of Guanajuato, and this is a walkway we just went up just to explore the side streets of Guanajuato. This is very typical, very beautiful, and cause for great adventures anywhere you go within the city. It's fantastic. The most famous alley in Guanajuato is the Callejón del Beso, located on the slopes of the Cerro del Gallo hill in a neighborhood that dates back to the 18th century. It is only 186 centimeters, 66 inches wide in places, with balconies that nearly touch each other. Folklore states that couples who kiss on the 3rd step, painted in red, are guaranteed 7 years of happiness together. The name, which means Alley of the Kiss, comes from a legend of 2 young lovers who come to a tragic end. Doña Carmen and Don Luis. Doña Carmen's father forbade the courting of his daughter by the young Luis, threatening to send Carmen to a convent if she left the house to see him. Carmen's balcony reached over this alley and nearly touched the balcony of the neighboring house. Luis found out who owned it and arranged access. One evening, while the two were on these balconies, Carmen's father discovered them as Luis held Carmen's hand between his own. Enraged, Carmen's father stabbed her, leaving the shocked Luis holding the hand of his beloved as it grew cold and lifeless, giving it one final kiss.
How you doing today?
Oh, I'm having a good time.
It's fun.
Getting ready to find the music store. So excited.
And this is our third day,
Third
right?
day. Third day.
Third day.
So we're still exploring.
All right,
Trying to
good.
find all our little spots.
It's fun.
Yeah. The Quixote exhibit was fantastic. We loved it.
Absolutely gorgeous. And we got pictures of all the greatest artwork in the universe.
Man, so many eras, so many time periods are reflected there. It was fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The University of Guanajuato began as a Jesuit school for children in the first half of the 18th century. Over time, the school grew and began to offer high school and professional level studies, and in 1945 gained university status. Today, the institution serves approximately 30,000 students at the high school, bachelor's, and graduate levels.
Oh, excuse me, ma'am. Care to
Yes.
take a course?
Sure, right here.
It's right here, isn't it?
All the arts.
University, arts, everything.
Music.
Don't you love it?
This building is the Alhóndiga de Granaditas, currently a museum chronicling the long history of Guanajuato, and this building also played a key role in the War of Independence in 1810. A poor miner by the name of Juan José de los Reyes Martínez, better known as El Pipila, was able to help the insurgents overtake royalist troops and many of the elite holed up in the Alhóndigas de Granaditas granary on September 28, 1810. This was the first battle against Spanish troops in the war and is popularly called the Siege of the Alhóndiga. This battle is commemorated by this colossal statue of Pipila on a hill overlooking the city. Large ditches and tunnels were built in the 1700s to contain and divert overflows of water and flooding during the rainy season. These eventually crisscrossed a large part of the city, and in the 1960s, dam construction brought the flooding under control, and many of the ditches and tunnels were converted into underground roadways, making driving interesting at best. A harrowing cab ride brought us to this hilltop location, home of the magnificent Mercedes restaurant, where Tricia and I celebrated our 10th anniversary. By simply wandering around the city, we found a ton of fantastic restaurants. We went all over the place, ate all kinds of food, and found absolutely nothing that we did not thoroughly enjoy.
Having fun?
Oh yeah, I love this courtyard.
Oh,
It's a little pocket garden.
it's beautiful.
Surrounded by little cafes. I love it.
Isn't it nice?
Yeah.
And you've got your mineral, and I've got my natural agua.
El Cerro de los Banos.
We loved this famous restaurant with tables on a very narrow bridge. And not to leave out the familiar.
Where are we?
We're in Starbucks across from our hotel. There's a odd mixture of jazz and mariachi music combined with the sound of a water fountain.
Guanajuato's history goes back to the 1500s. The origin and growth of this city resulted from the discovery of minerals in the mountains surrounding it. The Spanish found deposits of gold here in the 1540s, and soon they sent soldiers and built forts. The mines were so rich that the city was one of the most influential during the colonial period. This mine is a tourist site that is typical of the many mines that made Guanajuato rich, both inside and just outside the city proper. A number of these mines gave rise to small communities with their own churches. These still exist with other institutions, such as museums. While these mines were highly beneficial to the Spaniards, not so for indigenous cultures. Slaves and wage slaves within the culture were forced to work the mines, and it was such dangerous work that life expectancy for the indigenous workers was 35 or younger. This is the San Gabriel Hacienda, which received sludge from the mines and conscripted 400 indigenous workers to separate the sludge using mercury. As you can well imagine, the life expectancy of these workers was no better than those in the mines, about age 35. But it was and still is a beautiful, beautiful environment. This is the Hacienda's watchtower outside the main building. And here we see the outside of the hacienda itself and the beautiful, beautiful entryway into the hacienda right here. You can see in these shots the incredible extravagance and wealth that this production of silver and gold produced. Our guide was very informative and flamboyant, and told us about the resident priest during the early days of the hacienda, who provided a spiritual function, but possibly more importantly, made sure that 10% of the hacienda's wealth made it to the Vatican. This was the housekeeper who ruled operations with an iron fist and spied on the hacienda on behalf of the government to make sure it got its 20% of the hacienda wealth. The hacienda's two daughters had incredible and often risque adventures that were moderately believable. This is the water filtration system, and if any of the 400 sludge workers or 20 household slaves were caught drinking this water, they were put to death immediately, and all the remaining water was thrown out so that purification could start anew. While haciendas such as the San Gabriel were creating great wealth for the ruling class under outwardly beautiful conditions, another hacienda was pitting the Spanish against the Spanish. Heretics and the unfaithful were sent to this man to be interrogated during the Inquisition. There were no holds barred whatsoever on the methods used to extract a confession and to get the unfaithful to recant whatever it is that they were doing that the church did not approve of. Our guide told us that some of the Spaniards who died in this horrible place were sent there by business competitors on trumped up religious charges. He also said that the indigenous were not sent here because the Spaniards at the time didn't think they had souls and therefore could not confess or be saved. On a much, much, much brighter note, Guanajuato is a town with art, of course, but also theater productions, film showings, art exhibitions, academic conferences and talks, concerts, and dance recitals, especially in October during the Festival Internacional Cervantino. This is a spontaneous musical event in one of the plazas near our hotel.
Échele la magia.
Solo bebe aguardiente para olvidar.
We'll finish our tour back at the Jardín de la Unión in front of the San Diego Church, where wandering musicians play to an audience and hope some of them will buy tickets to wander with them for an hour or two through the streets of Guanajuato.
Thank you so much for joining us on our wonderful visit to Guanajuato, Mexico.
We hope that it inspired in you a desire to learn more about the history and culture of Mexico. It certainly did for us. We went to the library and started looking up novels and history books just to learn a little more. And what a wonderful journey it's been.